Welcome back to another Sunday Night with Coalition M. I'm your host Carson Lopez, and this is KFHS Radio. Tonight I have a repeat guest on tonight. He was just, I said that twice. He was just with me in the last episode. We were talking about what it's like to date in the gay community, and now we're going to get a little bit more focused. We're going to dive into Christianity and the Bible and intersecting with sexuality for believers, and so I'd like to welcome back Luke Hoskinson. Am I saying that right, Luke?
Yep.
Okay, cool. It was pretty easy. How have you been, Luke? Ready to dig in?
Yeah.
Ready to get into it? Cool. So I don't have my Bible with me tonight. I was just telling Luke I forgot it. But I do have my nifty little Bible app. I know some people are probably like, what, an atheist with a Bible app? Yes, I love the Bible as it turns out, but I'll get into that. But first, I'd like to just jump right in, starting with my first of many questions for you, Luke. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Pretty basic stuff. Cool. So did you grow up Christian? And I think last time you said you are non-denominational now. Yes. Is that right? But what about growing up? Was it the same thing?
I've kind of bounced all over. My parents have always been involved in whatever church we're in, like,
okay,
super involved.
Pastor involved?
Not pastor, but
okay. Just community-wise, just really
just
loving
like super
it.
involved in, like, I forget what they're called, like deacons or something. I don't pay attention to them.
I guess it depends on what are we talking, like Catholics or
no, never been Catholic.
Baptist or what? I think deacons.
We've been
I forgot where they are. Okay, really?
I forget what we were when I was in elementary school. Non-denominational and something. I'm really bad with names.
Yeah, that's okay. There are a lot of them. There are like
it's so much is different from like non-denominational. I like because it's like your own thing. Mm-hmm. You know, like I come as me, mm-hmm. and like other ones come and you're like, you have to say your 10 prayers at night.
Yeah, so that'll be the Catholics who have kind of that ritualistic
that's not for me.
motto. Yeah, they're definitely. I need to bring in my friend Abby, who we went to Catholic school together. Actually, oh, that's such a good idea, Carson. Good job. Write that down. I need to bring Abby in because she. I don't know if she identifies with Catholicism anymore, but we went K through 8. We went to school together at a Catholic private school. And then I did not continue as a Catholic. I went to public school after that, and then we just became non-denominational, my mother and I. But she carried on into Catholic school. She went to high school. It was called Cape and Mount Carmel. I don't know if you've heard of them. Yeah. She went to Cape and, which is a Catholic school, and she very much grew up with that, more so kind of than I did. And so I at least know that they're the whole say your 10 Hail Marys and go to confession. Oh, I forgot about confession. That's such a good, wow.
Which I don't even understand, but...
What? Confession?
Yeah, it seems like you can just sin and then go to confession and it's all good. Like
yeah, that's basic. Yeah, that's basically the concept, I want to say, just from my experiences. And they start you very, very young going to confession. I don't remember what grade specifically I was in, but I was definitely a little kid. I mean, when they start teaching you about confession and what you need to go in and basically tell this older, usually white dude, all your secrets, and then he tells you that God forgives you, and then you go pray about it and everything's cool. Yeah, so yeah, it is problematic if you believe that that's how it works, that's how sin works, that's how forgiveness works, Yeah. So what is your perspective of forgiveness? How do you think that works with God and people who mess up or sin?
Being non-denominational, kind of you just have your own relationship with God, so you just kind of say like, I'm sorry, this is what I've done.
Yeah, you don't have to go through anybody.
Yeah,
in other words, you don't have to.
It's just you. Nobody knows like what you pray about at night. You just pray what you pray, and all is forgiven.
Yeah. So, is there like a repeat aspect to it? Because that's kind of what we were saying about the Catholics who go in and, you know, they confess and then everything's cool. So, like, for example, if they were, if they think that drinking is a sin, and they drink every weekend, but then in the morning, you know, Sunday morning, they go in and they confess and it's forgiven, do you think that that's legit? Or are you more of a, like, okay, you know, it's kind of like almost like an addict, like you kind of relapse and you repent and you're forgiven. And if you do it again, it's still kind of the same concept. You do have to still keep repenting, but you have to still try to stop doing whatever it is. Or is that kind of more of your concept of it, or how does that work?
Yeah, like I kind of view like confession as like I go, I say I'm sorry, it's fine, I can do it again, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But like the way I was taught as a kid was like if you keep doing it, then it's not forgiven after a while.
Okay.
You know, like if I kept like punching you.
Right.
Or, like, stop punching me.
Right, yeah. And you kept
I'm like,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And then we go back. Eventually you're going to be like, F off. No.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that. Okay. Interesting. So you said that so being non-denominational, but you've kind of bounced around to like different denominations. So you said you were Methodist. That you can remember for sure.
Yeah, that Methodist was one of the longer ones that we tried.
They're pretty liberal.
Yeah.
Methodists.
It was a little culty, to
really?
be honest. Yeah, the one we went to, like, we went at a time when my mom had cancer, and so the whole church, like, had the entire church had this, like, my mom sat in a chair in the middle, and they all put their hands on her, and like,
yeah, I remember. I've done that.
There were some bitches in the back, like, saying their own prayer that were like,
oh like, man,
what do we do?
Yeah,
I gotta go.
Yeah, I remember doing that in my church that my mom still goes to. I probably haven't done this in so long to somebody, but I remember in high school I dropped my pen. We actually did that to somebody. She was going on a mission trip or something, and we gathered around her, reached our arms out, put our hands on her some way, and it was kind of like a weird, like, it was almost like this, as if she was the main power source, and then everybody was trying to touch her. Yeah. And then if you weren't touching her, you would touch somebody who was touching her, and that's how you got to her. Yeah. It was, you're right.
It was weird.
It's uncomfortable.
As an adult, I understand, like, what they were trying to do.
Sure, yeah.
But as a kid, I was like, the hell did we
just get what is this? Yeah, it can be a little, I mean, as a kid, I'm sure that could be a little scary. Catholicism does not do that. They do not, they're not personal about it. Like, I've never heard of a Bible study of a bunch of Catholics sitting around talking about their relationship with God.
You don't. No. I never noticed that.
Because, well, I have to bring Abby and we'll talk about that.
But they always have jewelry. They have a lot of, like...
Yeah, they're very,
which is kind of cute, but, like, what does it mean?
It's very... And I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound condescending, but I'll explain what I mean. They're very materialistic. So, like, rosaries, wearing the right clothes to church, women, you can't. I remember in 8th grade, for my 8th grade, graduation, quote unquote, I wore this dress that had straps instead of sleeves, and I remember my science teacher like giving me shit for showing my shoulders. Like, like a 13-year-old showing her shoulders, and this lady was upset about it. Yeah, and so very much so what you look like, how you present yourself. Rosaries are funny because you're not supposed to wear them like a necklace, but I've seen Catholics who do it, and I'm like, are you really Catholic though? Because that's a basic tenet of Catholicism is do not wear your rosary because it's irreverent. They love their statues and their...
They really do, the Mary one.
Mary and all the saints. Sometimes never God, but Jesus and baby Jesus. Adult Jesus and baby Jesus for sure. Sometimes like paintings of God and stuff like that. And their cathedrals, their big, beautiful buildings, and their candles and their vigils, and very much about what it looks like and how cool they can. And it does look cool. Like, I love it. I love I think it's so interesting. But yeah, very different take on Christianity. Some people argue they're not actually Christians.
Aren't they the first Christians, though? Weren't they the ones
No, they are the most powerful Christians, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's how we learned
they are the
in history.
richest. Yeah, they are the richest. They are the most... Well, this is probably debatable. I would say they're the most socially influencing.
Yeah, with the Pope.
Yeah, the Pope.
They all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have. A bunch of old white Italian men.
It's like the colonel at KFC. Like, you can't apply
yeah.
if you don't look like it.
Yeah, they have to be. Well, it's because they have this process where when they pick the Pope, it has to be a cardinal, I'm pretty sure. And cardinals are those... They basically run around in all red robes and hats, and they've been with the Catholic Church in the ministry for a long time. Goodness. So yeah, they actually do have to be old. That is a requirement. they actually literally have to be in like a cardinal, and a cardinal has to be old. I think the youngest one appointed ever was John Paul II, and he was not a kid, but he was like maybe 30s or 40s. So that's probably the youngest. Yeah. Man. Yeah. So almost kind of like a president, but they usually do tend to be kind of right on their deathbed as they're elected. I don't know how to say that.
We don't want them kept here long.
Yeah, but yeah, so Catholicism is very different from like Methodists, for example.
Or non-denominational.
Or even, Baptist or Presbyterian, fundamental evangelicals, all of them very different. All of them are very different, different. And so who do you kind of identify with in terms of how you view God, do you think?
Like what religion? Like what?
Sure, yeah. Or, like do you kind of... I don't know a lot about Methodists, but I know that they're definitely one of the more socially liberal churches, because they're very, very welcoming to gay people, and they appoint women as leaders. They appoint women bishops and pastors all the time, and that's not something you'll see really in any other religion or any other sect of Christianity. And so that's what I know about them. I assume that they believe that God wants that and likes that, but that's about as much as I know about Methodists. So do you kind of align with that idea of God, or where do you get your ideas of who God is?
I definitely don't identify with Methodists, just because my experience was a little more like not their general description.
Okay, how do you mean?
Well, like, I went to talk to my pastor. We were in high school, and like I've been out forever, like our last show. And I went to talk to him about it, and one of the things that I remember him saying, and that was when I like checked out of church for a couple of years.
Who was this? Who are you talking to?
My pastor of the church.
Okay.
And I went and talked to him, and he was like, well, being gay is not wrong, and like I'll marry you, but you have to do this 6-week course on why you're going to hell for it.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Wait.
It was just very...
So he said it wasn't wrong, but you're going to hell for it?
Exactly. And then their
Interesting.
youth group kind of thing. It was like a Bible study for kids.
Uh-huh.
Well, not kids, but high schoolers.
Okay, so like a youth group.
Yeah, they were kind of the same way, where like they would accept you, but you were still wrong. Mm-hmm. And I stopped going after I went once, and it was just attacking of like why I'm wrong because I'm gay. And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
So I definitely don't identify with that. But my experience is probably not what most people.
Sure, yeah. I know that they've kind of grown a lot more towards accepting gay people and saying that it's not wrong, it's not a sin, at least nowadays.
Yeah.
So what didn't sit with you about that? Why did you leave because of that?
Well, first off, I always kind of thought the pastor was a little, I think it was just my church. Like, I don't try to like.
You just didn't really trust him, or what?
Yeah, I don't really know much about religion, so I don't want to say it's like the religion. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say the church itself. I didn't really like it. He seemed very opinionated.
Okay.
And very like
judgmental. Maybe?
Yeah, my way is the highway.
Gotcha.
My way or the highway or whatever. And so it was just kind of didn't really identify with that very well.
Okay. So you kind of wanted a relationship with a pastor who was more kind of let you figure it out yourself?
Yeah, because that's to me that's how I did religion. Like I was always my own person, kind of black sheep in the corner. So I was like, I just learned to do things my way.
Just think for yourself.
Like, just let me do me. And if you think I'm going to hell, cool. Good for you. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you figure out yourself?
I kind of pieced together things from different religions and just was like, this is how I'm going to do it. Because like one of the things I love about my church, and I assume they're non-denominational. I don't really know. They've never been like, hi, we're
non-denominational. Yeah.
But it was kind of like, this is your walk, and we're just here to kind of keep you on a path. But, you know, it's a 6-lane highway. You can choose your lane that you want.
Cool. Wow.
Which I like.
And they let you kind of be your own person, and you don't have to. It sounds like you don't like the characteristic of conformity in a lot of churches. You don't really jive with the whole, no, this is how it is, and you can be who you are, but we're not going to let you get away with it almost, you know, kind of like, we're going to tell you how we feel about it, but you can still do it, but we're going to let you know how we feel about it. And you don't really like that.
It's like they put you in a box, but they paint that box with free will. Like, you're free.
Ooh, free will.
But you're in our box. And I don't do good in boxes. No.
Yeah, for sure.
I am who I am. And I'm like, I think God, I don't think you choose it.
What?
Like to be gay. So, and that's my biggest struggle with religion.
Yeah.
I know that's not what like, this is just about religion, but being gay has affected my religion. And so I feel like that was one of the struggles, was like, it's wrong to be gay, and we're not going to tell you not to be gay, but we're going to kick you out because you're gay. So then you're just like, oh, okay.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You know
that's
what I'm
very
saying?
confusing.
Like I'm my own person, but they're still trying to get me to be in their like hetero box of like, marry a woman even though you like men, and have children and drive a minivan.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, that culture.
Yeah.
So the church that you're in now, they just they don't really talk to you about it. They don't like come up to you and say, hey, you're gay, like, you know. So that's good. That's good that they kind of give you that space to think about it yourself. So what do you think so far? What have you you said that you kind of pieced together stuff from other religions. More specifically, what do you think about what God thinks about you being gay?
As a person, I know that a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people that I value their opinion would disagree with me, but I feel like God made me gay. Okay. Like I tried to date the woman thing. I tried to do it. And it's like at some point you just have to be like, well, if God makes us in his image and I am like this, and there's no like, you know, like you can have anxiety and there's a chemical imbalance. So you fix it. There's nothing like that. So to me, it was just like, well, God made me how I am, so that part's okay. And then just other parts of my life, I've just been like, well, I think this is okay. I hope it is. Sorry, God, if it's not.
Interesting. So would you say you have a personal relationship with God?
Yeah, I definitely have separated church from God. Okay. And to me, God is his own person. And like, the Bible, I have a weird view on the Bible. Growing up as a kid, I was like, there has to be mistakes. It was written by humans where we make mistakes. And now as an adult, I'm like, okay, well, this is like other people's stories of God. So like, what is the story trying to tell us? Okay. If that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like God is like my best friend, and this is who he is, and like you can like him or you cannot. It's not my problem.
So you think he's pretty cool with you being gay? Like he's okay with it?
Yeah.
Like he thinks. Do you mean like he thinks it's okay, or he doesn't like it but he tolerates it? Like, do you know kind of the hairs I'm trying to split here?
Yeah, I think.
Or you think he's okay with it? Or
I think he's okay with it because I feel like I've prayed enough and tried enough to not be, that I feel like if he wasn't, he would have made it that a little easier.
Okay.
You know, like, oh my God, I was miserable.
Well,
if you like men and you date a woman, you're like, nothing about this rocks.
Yeah. Nothing. Yes, I totally get you, because I have tried to be with men and it totally did not rock.
Yeah, their personality. You're like, I love you, but I hate you.
Yeah, it's the personality, but it's also like, oh, don't touch me.
Yeah. What is that? What's that smell?
What is that? I don't.
They smell different.
Yeah, like, you're right.
A man from the gym smells different than a woman.
Ugh, God, just cringe. Yeah, you're right though. I literally can't stand the smell of just the sight of a sweaty man. I can't.
Yeah,
it's terrible. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it must be confusing for you just hearing people say God doesn't like this. You know, the Bible says this is immoral. And that's just the lighter side of it. That's just the nice part of it.
Yeah.
So just dealing with the nice part of it, but then you still have these feelings. So it's like, well, I can't get rid of this, so it must be part of me, and I can't get rid of it. And so God must have given it to me, you know? So maybe he doesn't think it's wrong, because why would he give me something he doesn't like? Because that's dirty. It's a dirty, dirty trick to play on somebody you love, you know? So is that kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say what you think about the Bible being, obviously it was written by people, so there's got to be mistakes in it. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't believe it anymore, but definitely as a kid, for a lot of my childhood, I stuck by that, and I was like, nah. But like I always thought, like,
you stuck by thinking it was
just there was a mistake in there somewhere.
Okay.
And like I think a lot of it was I separated as an adult the church and the people in the church from God. And so like now as an adult I think like, oh, God, that's like God's word, like that's his story, and he's just telling it through these people. But as a kid I was like, God just told these people, like gave them a book report to write. And, like, I know I can make a book report, but I'm a math guy. And so my book report is, like, I don't know, a good one from a bad one. So, like, these people, that's their book report. Like, who's the D and who's the A? Like, who do I
interesting. How do we know?
Yeah.
And so, but now you're more like, no, this is, so you think more now that everything in it is what God meant to say.
Yeah, and I think the issue that I've had and like had to overcome and still kind of struggle with a little bit is like, I think I can tell you my story and you're going to get different pieces from it, and I can tell Pete down the street my story and he's going to get different pieces of it. So I think that's like what the Bible is like God's telling us his story, and whatever he wants you to get from it is what you get. You know what I mean? So
you think he kind of has a hand in how we each individually interpret it?
Yeah, because like, when I read the gay parts of the Bible, I'm just using that. I know I'm kind of focusing on that, but that's like,
go ahead. Yeah,
relating to religion. Like when I focus on that part, it says something different to me than like an alcoholic reading about alcoholism. I don't know. I'm not an expert in the Bible, but I assume it says something about like, don't overdo it. And an overdoer reading that is going to read it differently than I will, and focus on different parts. And I feel like God puts that in your head to like focus on different parts, if that makes sense. It's like when you're playing The Sims and you like tell the mom to go make a sandwich.
Okay.
It's like God's telling you, focus on this part.
Yeah. So do you think he tells, or he's told you to go look at what this verse says about homosexuality?
I think just when it comes, I don't just open the Bible for fun. I've never been like,
yeah,
I've never been a big, like, let's read this and what does it say, and do that, like, open, and whatever page it opens to, you read and examine. Haven't been that person. I have, like, a devotional I read that has a Bible verse on it about your day, but so I don't really know what the Bible says word for word enough.
So you haven't, like, cracked it open and gone to, what's one of them? I think one of them is Corinthians and the other one's Romans. I'm forgetting which. I wrote them down somewhere. So you haven't gone to a specific Bible verse about what God thinks about gay people.
Yeah, no. I just get my stuff from, like, I go to church that day. What's the sermon on? And that's like what he's telling me. If I feel like it's right, then I'm like, oh, okay. But sometimes it's just, I feel like you can tell when somebody's, like, shoving a crack into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so why do you think he wouldn't want you to look at that?
I don't know. And to be honest, I don't care enough to think about it. Like,
really?
I was just, like, off-putted.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, that's your view. I don't have the same view. I'm going to go find somebody that helps me with my walk better.
Yeah.
Because I feel like pastors are like math teachers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're here to teach me math. Like, let's just...
Like, don't get personal with me. Just teach me math.
Yeah, you don't know me like that.
Yeah,
I don't care what your opinions are. Just teach me.
So, Luke, wouldn't God want you to know what his thoughts are on it?
Yeah, and I think he just puts that, like, in my mind, he just, like, I constantly feel like, no, that's not 100% what it's like.
What do you mean?
That little voice in the back of your head that's just like, no, it's not as bad.
Do you mean, like, you don't want to think that what the Bible says is really what he thinks? Is that what you mean?
Like, I just interpret it different. Like, so this church that I go to now, I've gone to for 3 years, 2 or 3 years now. And we haven't really had, like, a major homosexual,
like, talk.
Yeah.
Or
sermon or anything.
Okay.
But this other church I went to, we didn't. And then it seemed like every Sunday was kind of starting to get, like,
they're starting to broach the topic.
Yeah, for
a
like
bit more.
a good summer. And so it's just kind of like, I don't know how to word it. I felt that it was their personal, like, sometimes I feel like it's an easy out to be like, I don't like you because of my religion. Because you feel wrong about why you don't like somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I can steal the cookies from the cookie jar and be like, it's because of my religion.
Right.
No, I'm just fat, and I felt bad that I stole all your cookies.
So you didn't feel like they were, you didn't feel like when they were talking about homosexuality, it was really because that's what the Bible said? You felt like they were just saying it because they wanted it to be true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like, I feel like you can, like, the difference between that and, like, the church I go to now, I feel like he just reads you the Bible and it has a sermon and it's like, this is the general gist. Here's your interpret. Like, get what you want.
Yeah. Okay.
But these people were like, and it's not just this one church. I know I'm hating on this one church. It's just, it was more
than
just...
What's your experience? It's okay.
Yeah, it was more than that. Just that church. That was just the most recent, easiest experience. But it was like, they were, I think it's wrong to cuss, so you shouldn't cuss. And they used the Bible to fit their agenda.
Gotcha.
And I didn't really like, I thought, again, that was like, here's a box, but I'm going to paint it in freedom, but it's still a box. And I'm still taping it up.
Yeah. So you do think that the Bible contains God's real opinions in it, right?
Yeah, I think it's more his story.
Okay.
Of just, like, I think of us as like, we're God's Sims game, and he's just kind of learning how to play.
He's learning how to play it?
Not that sounds bad. Like, he knows how. He's just like, this is my experience.
Okay.
And so he tries to teach us what's right and what's wrong through, like, you saw what this dude did and how it ended up for him. You can do it, but, you know, it didn't. It's like if I wanted to be, it's like if you took somebody who went through med school and you took me who took one semester and failed, I'm going to
want to listen to, you're going to want to listen to the med school kid, right?
The med school kid's going to do it right.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. We might get the same job done, but you're not going to want to go my route.
Right,
you're going to want to go this kid's route.
So you trust him. So you trust God that he knows what's right and wrong, and that he's kind of laid that out for us to read in the Bible.
But I think my God's different than like anyone else's God. I think we all have different gods. Like, did you ever watch The Shack?
No. I know what it's about, though.
Yeah, so in The Shack, God is a black woman because that's who
Octavia Spencer.
Yeah, that's who the guy needed. So I think God is like that for everybody, which is like, who do you need God to be? And that's who he is.
So that kind of sounds like you're saying he'll come to us wherever we are to kind of meet us in the middle, to however he needs to get to us. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, but do you think he's still kind of the same person? And he's still got the same intentions. He's still got the same personality, same opinions. I mean, do his opinions change depending on who he's talking to, or how does that work?
I don't really know about that, just because I'm not God, so I can't answer.
Sure, yeah.
I just look at God as like a person, and like God is there to lift me up, and I'm there to lift him up, and like we're just lifting each other up, like how I would like my boyfriend or like a husband and wife. And so I feel like I can't answer him on his opinions because he doesn't tell me, like I don't know them.
Right, but
I just know like how I interpret it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Which I think is why I have such an issue with like, this is right, this is wrong, you know?
Because your picture of God is more kind of like that friend who's just supporting you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily there to tell you his opinions.
Yeah, and he can be like, I don't know if I would do that. I would probably go to the doctor.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have to.
But he's kind of a very kind of hands-off sort of guy, sort of person who's just kind of like, you know, I love and support you. You do your own thing. Here's what I think you should do, but you know, you don't have to do it, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, so earlier you said that that you would consider God to be your best friend. So that's a pretty personal, pretty intimate relationship to have with somebody, because that involves a lot of trust, a lot of vulnerability to think of somebody like that, you know, to think of somebody as a friend, even a best friend, somebody you can really rely on. So wouldn't you be interested in who he is as a person?
Which I feel like, yes. I'll answer your question with just like, I feel like it was a yes or no. So yes.
Okay.
I feel like what I have experienced in my life God has put me through, you know, I hate to say it because it's such a cliche or whatever, but you know, if God brings you to it, God will bring you through it.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
That's honestly how I feel, because I have been that person that has hated him and not liked him. And
why?
Just things that my struggles in life, without like getting like hella personal or whatever. I don't know how far we're supposed to go.
You can go as far as you want.
Like I battle with suicidal depression really bad, and I've attempted 5 times, and that alienated me from everyone in my life, and it still is something I struggle with. But I remember the last time I I woke up and just felt like it was because of God that I made it. Like that was the only explanation to me. And I was like, that was when I started thinking like, okay, well, God is not my enemy. And when bad things happen, like with depression, you get into like such a low. And it just seems like everything bad is happening. And so I felt like if God controls all and he loves me and we're supposed to be like BFFs, he wouldn't do this. So I thought, well, he doesn't love me. He's not real, like whatever. But then waking up when I was supposed to be dead was like, to me was like, wow, he's my best friend. Like he put me through this for a reason. What's that reason? And I like asked him, I don't pray. I just talk like how I would talk to you. And so I just was like, God, just show me like your way. Like, why didn't you just let me die like I wanted? And now I feel like I have that purpose. I know that purpose. And it's not only brought me closer to God, but it's brought me closer to people in general-ish, if that makes sense. I'm still closed off, and I still like to keep my like real personal stuff. I know it seems like I'm pretty open, but I'm like, there's a lot that I don't tell.
Well, you're a human being, so it's okay to be private.
Yeah.
Even if you're open.
And so I just feel like God helped me be open with him and admit to him, but more importantly to myself, my struggles, and like realize that I was taking it out on him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like he teaches us through like, if I didn't go through that experience, I wouldn't have my opinion of like who God is as my friend.
So it sounds like you're saying that he's been there for you.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And
when no one else could.
Yeah. And because you'd isolated yourself, unfortunately, people who are depressed, especially severely, will do that because it's easier.
Yeah. Which is a whole different show.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like, because relationships, friendships are two-way street. Would you agree? So I share with you who I am, and you share with me who you are, and we're there for that's how we can be there for each other. Unless it's like a therapist situation where it's healthier for you to not know necessarily who I am.
Yeah.
So it sounds not necessarily like you have a friendship with God. It sounds more like kind of a therapist-client relationship with him. Is that kind of seem a little bit more accurate? Am I fair? Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair. Like, I don't feel like I could, like with religion, I don't feel like you can say like, oh, you're wrong. I feel like it's just.
Well, but this is for you.
Yeah,
I'm talking about for you. So if I'm wrong, say I'm wrong, and
for me,
we'll clear it up.
No, it's not my view.
Okay.
I view like God shows me like this is who I am, but because he's not like physically, I can't touch him, I can't see him, I can't. I feel like your experiences in life and what you learn and how you get through it is God showing you who he is.
Okay. Yeah.
And so like him waking me up and not letting me die like I wanted to was showing me that like God is always there, no matter like you can not recognize, what's the word I'm looking for? We're in public and I don't acknowledge you. We're not, you can be at that person, but he's still there for you. So it's like, he shows me that he's caring and he's loving and he might not agree with what you do, but he still accepts you. Okay.
Yeah. The reason that I'm trying to kind of go back to who is this person, who you are talking to, who you're leaning on, who you're trusting, who you're calling your best friend, who you're opening up to, and who you've got this picture of, is because I think it's important to know who your best friend is.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's important to know what they think, because if I were best friends with somebody and they were just a phenomenal support and guidance for me, but then I find out later that they had 6 kids in their basement, it's concerning, and I'd like to know who the person is, even if they are just a great friend to me. It matters to me how they treat other people too.
Yeah.
Because you might be able to give me awesome advice, and you might be able to show me a lot of love and compassion. But if you go home and beat your wife, ruins some things.
Yeah.
100%. Ruins some things. And so, not necessarily that's always what ends up happening, you know, but that is kind of, I feel like that is necessary for a relationship to grow, is that he knows you and you're deepening your understanding of him as well. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's true? Do you feel like do you agree 100%. With me that it's important to kind of know who this person who's guiding you, who's protecting you, who's waking you up, who's not letting you die? It's important to know who they are.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and so why don't you kind of want to know what he thinks about you being gay?
I feel like...
Or is that fair to say that you don't really want to know?
I feel like I do, personally.
You want to know what he thinks?
No, like, I feel like I know that, like...
Okay, you feel like he knows what he thinks? Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he made me that way. Like,
sure.
It's not my...
Okay.
It's
so...
not the world's doing, it's not anyone's doing, like... He made me that way, and it's okay, and I accept it.
Okay.
And, like, he does, too. And, like, I don't think I'm going to hell for it.
Okay. So, but you also think that he kind of laid himself out, laid his story out, laid his personality, kind of who he is, out in the Bible as well.
Right.
Okay.
And I feel like I can write, like, how I view the Bible, I feel like sometimes people use it a little too seriously.
Like, what do you mean? Like, literally? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, like, I think of the Bible as something, they use it a little bit like a weapon, and I think of it more as, like, a personal thing. Like, mm-hmm. It is my hands. My hands are for me, mm-hmm. so I can feed myself, so I can take care of myself. They're not for me to take my anger out on you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I feel like sometimes that's how the Bible gets used sometimes.
It's to kind of badger people with...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like you were saying that, you know, people have these opinions and then they... what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an F. Filter their opinions through the Bible, and then that comes out of their mouth. So the problem that we run into, Luke, is that... If you trust that God said his piece in the Bible, but you also have this very contradictory view of who he is. So it does say I don't want to say several, but honestly I think one is enough. So it does say in 2 or 3 verses. First of all, let me ask, what do you think of the Old Testament versus New Testament?
I think it was like God wrote a story and then he was like, I'm going to write a new one.
Okay. So you think they're both true and fair to his character?
Yeah, I think they're just different times in God's life. And so I think just like we go through mm-hmm. change and mm-hmm. like I'm a different person than I was even yesterday. Mm-hmm. God goes through changes and he's like, you know, I didn't quite get this out how I thought. Let me try it again.
Interesting. So you think that God makes mistakes? Excuse me.
I don't think he makes mistakes. I think because like I can tell you how I feel and it might not come off to you how I meant it, which I don't view as a mistake. I just view it as
I took that the wrong way, kind of.
Yeah,
so you'd come back and just explain it to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a mistake.
Just explain it better.
It's just,
okay, fair.
Let me try a different approach.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it's not super relevant. I just asked because sometimes people say, if I bring up what it says in Leviticus, which I'm sure you've heard of a lot, where it says what you should do to gay men, which is kill them, essentially. People will say, well, that was Old Testament God, and, you know, things are different since Jesus. But there are also books in the New Testament that say the same exact thing. And so when people like you and me, I'm a woman and I'm gay, you're a man who's gay, when people like us have this religion, and we want to believe that certain parts are true because the parts that are really ugly are just so uncomfortable that we just don't want to look at it. But it's important to look at it, Luke, because if you really want this relationship, you gotta know who the other person is, right? You gotta understand them. And you gotta understand where they come from, even if they've changed their minds, even if they, like I said, you want to know what this person kind of has in their basement if you guys are gonna have, bless you. if you guys are gonna have a as tight-knit a relationship as you want, as all of us want with somebody, you gotta know what they have in their basement because they know what's in yours.
Yeah.
And that's only fair.
Exactly.
It's only fair. And so the problem that we run into is we have this picture of this benevolent, very supportive God, and we want to trust that the Bible is fair to his character. And then we run into verses like 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 10, and then Romans 1, 26 through 32. I did write it down. Where it's just, it is literally saying that the gay part of ourselves is so horrible to this person that we're trusting that he still, Old Testament, New Testament, he still thinks it's wrong. It's not, nothing, there's nothing unclear about that in the Bible. And I know that people kind of try to muddy it up and kind of try to make excuses for it, and they try to stretch the logic and say, oh, that's, maybe he meant men who lie with women as in maybe he meant men who lie with other men are committing an abomination, should be stoned to death. Maybe he meant men who rape other men. No. And we know that, and it's important to know that, that's this person's opinion of this part of you, because I don't think real honesty can start until you are aware who this person is. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, I get what you're saying, but like for me it's different. Like, I don't disagree
on what?
With your opinion, because I think it is your opinion and it is your...
What do you mean is my opinion? That it's like which things?
Well, like for me, I don't know how to explain how I feel. For me, I look at God, like, I don't want to say I don't care about the Bible, but I don't. To me, my relationship with God is more important. So I have more of that, like, show me you. Mm-hmm. Like, show me what you want me to see of you. Mm-hmm. And let you tell me. Like, if you came to my house, I'd be like, say I just built this huge new house where you're coming over for a housewarming. I'm giving you a tour. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you everything, but I'm showing you. Mm-hmm. You can read about my house, say like in Architectural Digest, but I view the Bible as like that, where like God was told Paul his story and said like, this man, it has hardwood floors, Carrara marble, a huge kitchen island. Mm-hmm. And Paul is writing like what he visions his house like. But we don't know unfortunately, we don't know until we die and like get to talk to God and meet God. Like, well, what do you mean about this? And is this what you meant? Because this is how I interpreted it. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, I'm easier to let that stuff go.
How come?
And focus. Just because I think...
So, hang on. Before you answer, let's deal with that picture that you just painted first.
Of like what I...
The house of you giving me a tour of your house and showing me what you want me to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just with that. So the problem is, I can like you a lot and I can really trust you and I want to get to know you and I want to see what's in your house because you're my friend and I love you and I care about you. And I think that you feel the same way for me. But if you're only showing me what you want me to see, where's the trust in that? Where's the vulnerability?
Yeah.
Where's the relationship? Because if you're hiding kids in your basement, I want to know about that, you know? So we're back to the whole, I got to know who you are, you know?
And I think of it as, what I mean by, like, I'm showing you my house is we're doing that. Like, to me, I click off when I'm having conversations with people and they're like, well, in 1 Corinthians, I'm just like, whatever. Like,
why?
Because to me, that the Bible's been used so much to support people's agendas, not God's agendas. And to me, I feel like, personally, like, I'm not saying anybody else is wrong. I think everybody has their own walk. It's super personal. I don't want to know I don't want to, how to say it? I don't want, my walk is my walk, your walk is your walk. I like to hear about other people's walks, but I'm never going to, this is what I've experienced, you know. It's like if we had professors. If I hated this professor and they were just a total a-hole and you loved them, to me, I'm never going to be like, no, you have to hate them. Like, here is how I feel.
Yeah. Okay. So wait. Sorry. I'm not saying you need to
no,
this guy.
No, I know. That's not what I'm getting at all.
Okay.
To me, it's, and like, separate from this, like, we're just talking. Like, we're just two pals hanging out. Like, this is my view. This is from my experience. And to me, I focus more on the part of God that's like I would a boyfriend. Where, like, we are going through the house and I'm opening every single drawer. He's moving in. We're going through everything. We're looking at all the makeup. Oop, this is expired. We better throw that out. Like, we're just seeing everything. So you're going to know, like, if I got 10 kids in my basement or not.
So.
And I focus on that more than the Architectural Digest.
Right. So let's go to the house. If I were to come into your house, so there's a lot of things kind of playing here together. I kind of want to deal with your how you've kind of experienced people who will quote these Bible verses or have quoted the Bible verses to you, and it seems like they're attacking you personally, right? Yeah. It seems like they already think that being gay is wrong, and so they're using these verses against you personally.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they I'm trying to think of how to say this, because there are a couple possibilities here. A couple things I want to say. The first thing is that it's not always that they already think it's bad. It's that they're trying to do what's right. That they see, that they read, and they see what God wants, and they see what they think He said, and they're just trying to live by that. And the second part of that is they want that for everybody. So I'm not saying some of them aren't jackasses, because absolutely they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely, people like I think his name is Steven Anderson. So, some evangelicals will go online and just bash people.
Yeah.
Gay people, women, gay couples, you know, whatever. They just bash and bash and bash. But then there's this other part of Christians who genuinely just want everybody to be okay, and this is how they think. This is what they think it means to be okay. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that? Do you think that that exists, that there are people who aren't coming at it from, I have to tell Carson that she's wrong about this because it really pisses me off that she is the way she is? A lot of people are more just like, oh my God, I have to help Carson because she's doing it wrong. She's going to go to hell. I have to save her. Do you kind of see where I'm getting this, that there are these people who are not necessarily, and the reason that I say that is because it's hard to hear. When I was a Christian,
it's hard to hear that people tell you that.
Yeah.
You're okay.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to hear people that you love and care about and trust pull out this super raw and insecure, because we're all young when it happens, right? We're all in high school or younger, and when people are telling us this is when we first hear it. We're not hearing it as secure, fully formed, growing adults. We're hearing it as young people. I think we
hear it multiple times, though.
Yeah, absolutely, throughout our lives, but especially when we're most vulnerable, right? So when we don't know who we are and we're trying to figure it out, all we know is this is how we feel.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hear somebody look you in, or to hear somebody look you. It's hard to look somebody in the eye who you know and love and trust, and for them to kind of, it feels like they're reaching into your chest and like ripping this naked, like really
like they're stealing from you.
Yeah, it feels like
your paycheck.
It feels like they are taking something that belonged to you, and or either that, or it feels like they're taking something that you find very personal, and they're just showing everybody. It's like they're stripping you naked in front of everybody. That's how it feels. Yeah. Understandable. That's how it feels to be told this. But when you take a step back and try to understand, did they mean it? Were they trying to make me feel bad? Or were they trying to help me? Were they trying to save me? And the reason this comes up is because it's not necessarily that they think so. It's that they're reading this book that is telling them so. So it'd be like me coming into your house and looking through it, and you're showing me things and we're having a good time, but then somebody else comes in and says, well, look right over here, what is that? And it's kind of like, it's like a basement door, and I don't look in, but they're trying to open it for me, but I'm like, no, I don't want to see that, because it's really, because I feel like you don't want to show me that because you want me to see it. I feel like you're showing me that because you hate me. But it's not always that they hate you. And I'm not trying to say that there's not hate.
Yeah, I get.
And we'll get into the nature of those verses. But I really want you to kind of, I really want to help you understand that it's not the people.
Right.
It is the book. It is the verse. And it's hard. I understand it's hard when you have this picture of who this person is, and then you have something that does not comport with that at all. And it's hard to reconcile that. And so it's easier to say, well, that's not really how I see it, but it's not necessarily about that. It is about how you've experienced, and it is about your experiences too, but it's also, if I write something down for you because I want you to know who I am, it's not like Reader's Digest. It's like a letter that I've written to you telling you my story, and then I invite you in my house, that's fine. But the letter's important too.
Yeah.
You kind of see where I'm getting at here?
I see where you're coming from, but I disagree.
With what?
All of it.
Okay, which we'll take it by
to me, I do view it as a personal thing. Like, when I came out, I had this aunt. I love this aunt. I adore her. She's the cutest little thing. I love her. But I will never be 100% all in, because she was one of those, when you come out,
all in with what?
Like all in, just totally open. I view myself as like a gated house.
Okay.
And when I say all in or all open, I'm talking my gate's unlocked, it's wide open, any Joe Schmo can come walking in.
Okay.
My door's unlocked, there's hot food on. Like, I'll never be fully open because she was one of those that, well, X, Y, and Z, it's in the book. It's in the thing. And it's the same, I view that as the same reason why I hate accounting.
Because it's very black and white.
It's very opinionated and very, well, I view this as, I view the Bible as this is our rule book. God gave us our income statement and this is exactly what it is. But like me, I'm the finance guy and I'm coming in saying, well, hold up. This could mean this or this. Like, this is just your personal feelings on what my thing is. And I can make an income statement and it be my personal thing. And we're going to have two different, it might be the same account. We get to the same start and end, but we're going to have different things in there. And so to me, that's how I view the Bible is like people read it and they view it as this is our rule book, and anybody who doesn't follow this rule book, you're wrong. And this is God telling you this is who I am. And for me, and yeah, sure, that works for some people. That's accounting works for some people. That's why we have accountants. For me, I feel like it's not that black and white. I feel like I can write you a letter and say, happy birthday, I love you. Give all this, like, what I think about your life and what you've done right and wrong. And I can read a letter like that. Like, let's say Steph wrote you that letter. Okay, you're going to read it and you're going to get different from it. And I'm going to read it and get different from it. But it's the same letter. So, like, I view the Bible as, like, God's letter. And to me, that's very personal. I'm never... You can come to my house. I'm never going to open up my... Well, I don't keep birthday cards, but let's say I keep birthday cards.
Yeah.
I'm never going to open it up and be like, oh, my God, let's read. No. Because to me, you're going to get something different from that birthday, happy birthday, than I do. So to me, my issue with Christianity and why I feel like I get closed off, it's the same reason why I'm closed off from my aunt, is because I feel like it's a personal letter and I got what I got from it. And it's not my place or my business to tell you you're wrong. This is what my letter said. This is what it's like Steph wrote that letter and then she died and you're trying to say like what she meant. And you're like, but she's not here to tell you, so we never know. So why? To me, it's just too personal of a thing to kind of use it as a weapon.
Right.
And I feel like, that's what a lot of Christians do, and they hide behind the Christian thing when it's a whole different issue. And to me, the Bible is written for us, not as a guide, but as a letter. Yeah. And God's saying, the Old Testament was like, I wrote my BFF a letter of what's going on in my life at the time. And the New Testament is like, this is a new letter. It's a new time. A year has gone by. It's a new birthday. And so to me, it's like, I look at the Bible and I take it for what it is like God's letter. To me, is what it is. I'm not saying, I think religion's 100% opinion. To me, I take it as God wrote me a letter. Okay, cool. That's what went through his life. Put it in my shoebox. I can come back and read it when I miss him or when I, whatever. But going to dinner with God tells me more about who he is. Is he nice to the waitstaff?
Agreed.
Is, him going out of town and being like, hey, can you watch my house? And me staying in his house is him being like 100% open. I mean, if you're not there and someone's in your house,
so
they're gonna find the 10 kids in your basement.
Yeah.
Just trying to feed the dog.
Do you think that letter is still valid? The valid part of who he is?
I do.
Or if somebody, of the friend or whoever.
I think it's valid, but I think at the same time, it's easy to abuse the validity.
Validity, yeah.
Yeah. Because at the same time, I think it's like I can have an apple and it'll never be an orange. The Bible's a letter. It'll never be a book. It's a letter.
So,
but that's just my personal. Sure. I don't think anybody's wrong for being.
No, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So the letter, like you were saying. So if Stephanie wrote me a letter, and then like you got to read it or something. So.
But she's not here to tell us.
Right, but you said you do have a personal relationship with this person who's written this letter. So God, in other words, right? So he is here, and you do have a relationship with him. Maybe not specifically, you can't sit down with him like you're sitting down with me.
Yes.
But you still feel that personal connection where you could ask if you wanted and get an answer, just like when you felt like he had this purpose for you, and you're trying to figure out what it is. So there is still that dialogue that it's different than you and me, obviously, but it's a dialogue nonetheless. So it would be like if Stephanie wrote me a letter and had all those things that you said that were like a happy birthday. Here were our ups and downs. Here's the stuff that you did that really pissed me off. Here's the stuff that really made me laugh. It'd be like her giving me Jesus. It'd be like her giving me that letter. And I read it and I take what I like out of it. Like you said, and then you read it and you take what you like out of it. But at the end of the day, she wrote all of it. And if I come to you and say, well, she said this and this, and you say, well, but I got this and this, that doesn't negate the fact that she said both those things, that both what you and I are getting out of it,
right.
Those things are still in there. And she wrote it, and so she's still here, and it's not like she's negating it. It's not like she's going to you and saying, well, I know that Carson thinks I said this, but really I said even if she did, even if she was going to you and saying, well, I know Carson thinks I wrote this, but you got what I wanted you to get out of it, wink, And then she goes to me and says, I know that Luke got this out of it, but you got what I wanted you to get out of it, wink. And so it's kind of like, well, at the end of the day, what the hell did you say?
Yeah.
What is it then? And if she's not saying anything, you got to go back to the letter, and you and I got to sit down and be like, okay, this is what I saw. And you're saying, well, Carson, you completely left this out. And it says it right there. And I say, well, Luke, I guess it says that, but I don't know if I think that that's really what she meant to say. And it's like, and then you're like, Carson, well, then why did she write it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this. So what I'd like to ask you is, when you say, because I think what you're saying is, and so correct me if I'm wrong, I want to be able to kind of restate what you're thinking and feeling correctly, so because I don't want to deal with a straw man of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you seem like honestly, it seems like you have this relationship with this person, and he seems very one way to you. And I don't mean one way as in black and white. I mean like certain characteristics you assign to this person: loving, caring, supportive, friendly, kind of maybe a mentor type deal. But then when people try to kind of show, well, he can be that, and he can be all those things for you, but you should also know this is what he wants for you. And it seems like that, what that specifically says, and not all of it. I don't know what you think about all the other stuff that's in the Bible, we're just dealing with yeah, I know. We're just dealing with this stuff, and that's fine. We can go on and move on to other things if you want. But when people are trying to show you who this person is and what he said, that should be just as valid as you getting to know somebody. Because if I write you a letter, and then I'm a completely different person, when we have dinner, aren't you gonna be a little confused? Aren't you gonna be like,
exactly.
Who are you?
Point. Yeah. 100%.
That you're confused?
No, to me it is
that he's one way.
I am the kind of person where I handle every situation. I don't care if you're my mom. I don't care if you're a stranger off the street. I'm going to handle the relationship the same. And so let's say you wrote me a letter. I'll read it and I'll be like, oh, I got this from it. And you can and Steph can read it and be like, oh, I got this from it. And I'm like, cool, okay, whatever. I don't care. Like, go back to my own business. She goes back to her business. Like, at the end of the day, it's a freaking letter. If you wrote me this letter being like, oh my God, I love you so much, and then your actions show me a different thing, the letter isn't what I base our relationship off of. It's you showing me.
So what if I wrote you, I'm gonna go Mean Girls here for a second. What if I wrote you? Yeah. What if I wrote you, God, that I hate that shirt you were wearing today. Please never wear that ever again.
Yeah.
And then you and I go to dinner and you're wearing that shirt, and I say nothing.
I probably would.
Yeah.
Stop. But yeah.
Good. Anyway, so I've told you in this letter how much I hate that shirt that you're wearing. Please, God, don't wear it again. And then you and I go to dinner, and you're wearing that shirt, and I don't say shit. What does that tell you about me?
That you got the point of me wearing the shirt.
But what does that say to you about who I am? Do I seem kind of shady? A little bit, maybe?
No, I don't think so.
How come?
Because it's a shirt. Like,
okay, well, if it was, I don't know, if it was something more personal, like, God, I think your eyebrows are the worst.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I'm not really, I don't know, eyebrow lingo.
It's the same thing. It's, if it was a shirt, if it was my boyfriend, if it was my dog, if it was the color I painted my house, whatever, I view it all as the same thing. You don't like this one thing. But
you believe me that I don't like it. But then when we're together, I act like I'm fine with it. So
yeah, because to me,
isn't that weird?
To me, no, because to me that's being an adult.
What do you mean?
Where, like, let's say I didn't like your shirt, and I told you I didn't. I told you I didn't like your shirt. I didn't agree with it. It was overpriced. Whatever. But it's a shirt. It doesn't matter. To me, what matters is who you're showing me you are. If I told you I didn't like the shirt and we went to lunch, and at that lunch you were a total a-hole to the waiter and just had this better, holier than thou than everybody, that I'm not going to be your friend over. But you telling me you don't like my boyfriend or whatever, like, as an adult,
and then we go to lunch with him.
Yeah, and so like if I did it to you,
sure,
and you wore it and I didn't say anything, I would just think that I was being an adult, and we can have different opinions. Or
let me be a little more specific. So it would be like, come back to the shirt because it's just the easiest, I guess.
Yeah,
it would be like you telling me that you hate this shirt, whatever. You just it abhors you. This shirt that I'm wearing, and it personally offends you that I wear it. And then I wear it, and you don't only ignore the fact that I'm wearing it, you compliment me on it. And you all of a sudden love my shirt. I'm going to be like, well then, what the hell was that fit that you threw on Twitter, you know?
Yeah.
What was that fit you just threw on Messenger to me about how much you hated this shirt, and now you're telling me you're in love with it?
Yeah.
Which one is Luke? Because you can act one way to me,
100%.
But then when we're not face to face, maybe it's different. And I'm gonna be like, who is this guy? Like, which Luke is how he really feels, because he's saying these things to me and to other people. He's telling them how he feels about this shirt that other people wear. But with me, when he's with me, even though he said he doesn't like the shirt, he compliments me on it. So I'm really confused right now about who Luke is, because he doesn't seem very consistent.
Yeah.
Does that make kind of sense? I mean, how would you feel if the situation were reversed and I wasn't only tearing down that shirt of yours on social media, but when you and I were together, completely different. Not just ignoring you and letting you live your life like the shirt, but being fake. And so let me kind of tie this back to this I guess this kind of analogy with how some people's relationships with God are. It's kind of like I like that. I like these parts of him. And these other parts are very confusing and contradictory to me. So I don't really want to talk about it. And it's like we should be comfortable talking about it, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's just a shirt. We're just talking. We're just talking about it. It's not. It doesn't have to be so. Oh God, I don't want to see what's in there. You know. Yeah. But it is, because it's personal. Because it's not just a shirt. It's who you are and who I am. Yeah. So let me. I feel like I'm not letting you kind of let this sink in. So let me give you some time to kind of let it kind of sink in. And let me tell you my story. Okay. So I was Catholic K through 8, and then non-denominational like throughout high school. And I hated the Bible. And it wasn't just, I thought it was so boring, it's just a dry read. Like, who has time to read the Bible from cover to cover other than pastors who get paid literally to do that, and apologists and all them. So hated the Bible. But then things started coming up. So my sexuality was one thing, and I experienced the same thing that you did, Luke, where people were not necessarily coming at me like they unfortunately came at you, but it was still everywhere. It was just kind of common knowledge. Yeah, God doesn't want you to be gay, but he still loves you, and that's probably the most liberal view of it that I can think of that's out there, is that without completely disregarding what the Bible actually says, which some people do, will just say, no, it's okay to be gay. God likes it even. But when people still kind of wanted to adhere to what the Bible said, but they also wanted people to be Christian, so they would say, well, yeah, he's not okay with it, but he's also not okay with a lot of things, Yeah. And so what I ran into was it wasn't enough for me to have this relationship with somebody that I was supposed to love and trust, and who was supposedly loved and trusted. Well, maybe not trusted, but someone who loved and cared for me. Okay, well, I wanted to know who this person was. And so I was like, I just can't get away from those verses, because they're there and I can't take them out. And if that's really what he said, then I need to deal with it. And this is actually not why I became an atheist. This is not why I realized kind of that I didn't really believe it anymore. Because what happened was I came to a crossroads where I was like, this is who I am. Yeah. I love women. I want to have intimate relationships with women. I don't want intimate relationship with men, even though I am attracted to men. I don't want to force myself to be in relationships with them. As I'm sure you can relate, you know. And so it kind of came down to, I remember one time I was in my room and I was trying to go to bed, but I was thinking, am I going to have to pray this away? Am I going to have to ask God to take this away from me? Yeah. And for some reason I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to do that, because I'm not ashamed of it, because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And that got me thinking, do I disagree with God about sexuality and how it works and what's okay and what's not okay. And you know what? I accepted that I did. I disagreed with what the Bible said. If those are, I thought to myself, if those are really God's thoughts, he and I have a problem. And this was all while I still believed he was real. And this was all while I still thought that, well, I was still a Christian. I was still a believer. So I didn't just say, well, if he doesn't think what I think, then I don't believe in him anymore. It was more like, no, I kind of have a bone to pick with him now, you know? And so I chose, yeah, I was absolutely angry. Angry, but also just kind of, you're going to take me as I am, and if you try to change me, we're going to have an issue. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with me. And if you think there is, then I don't know how we can have a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I chose who I was over whoever he wanted me to be, I thought, at the time. And so I left it alone. I kind of, while still believing in him, I was like, I don't know if I want a relationship with you, because if you were a human being, I don't know if I'd want a relationship with you, because that's a very, very personal thing that you, quote unquote, disagree with in me. Mm-hmm. That you don't, it's almost like, have you ever heard the saying, how does it go? God loves you too much to leave you the way you are. Have you ever heard that? It goes something like that. It's something like, he loves you and he cares about you, but he wants to change you for the better. He wants to improve you. And I thought, if that involves making me straight, what the hell does that have to do with any of this? What does that have to do with who I am as a person? Of course, it impacts my life and my personality, but at the end of the day, I'm Carson whether I'm straight or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I left it alone for years, and I carried this kind of resentment in me, because I thought that there was literally this judgmental dick, basically, in the sky who would say things like, I love you and I care about you and I want you to be happy, or I want you to follow me because I think that'll make you happiest, and I want you to have this relationship with me. But then when it came down to it, he didn't want me to be gay. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. That was a problem for me because of the reasons you and I have talked about. It's so personal, and I don't know why anybody would be ashamed of it for any other reason other than the Bible says it, and people run away with it. Like you were saying, the people who attack and bash people, I don't know why anybody would think that being gay is wrong if the Bible didn't say it. Mm-hmm. And so I left it alone. And then I started listening to Dogma Debate kind of on accident. And what David Smalley does on Dogma Debate is he takes you through the whole thing, not just the gay stuff that gets really uncomfortable, but he talks to Christians about it. He's not just talking at you like I'm talking at you right now. These Christians, their answers were so lame. It was like, well, yeah, the Bible says that, but it gets really uncomfortable, because I was like, oh, so it really is what it says. And then we got into stuff like the creation story and how implausible that is just scientifically. And we get into, the story of Adam and Eve and how little sense that logic makes of, and then, hell and all these other things in the Bible. And I was like, this doesn't sound like a God. This sounds like a bunch of men who were trying to we're doing several different things. Maybe simultaneously. They were trying to understand the world, so they were trying to come up with how it was made, because they didn't know at the time. They were also trying to gain control over people to get them to do the right thing. Maybe they were like, oh, well, God sees everything and reads your mind, so don't do anything wrong because he knows about it. Mm-hmm. And then I was just thinking, and none of it made sense. It doesn't make sense to say that there's this loving creator, but these are the things he has said about people like me. And so it wasn't just, oh, this is some homophobic shit and I don't want it anymore. it was also, this is homophobic, but there are also some really contradictory messages here that I'm getting, because I had the same kind of concept of God when I was in high school, which was kind of the more loving and supporting and guidance, and that felt right to me, because that's what I needed. That's what I needed in a God, in a, you know, like a mentor friend kind of deal. I needed somebody who was going to guide me. But then there's this book that is supposedly his thoughts and feelings. And when I actually read it, and I want to read it more now as an atheist than I ever did as a Christian, because I find it interesting that this is who this God really was this whole time, and I didn't even want to know it, because it did not fit with my picture of who I needed this person to be. So I don't know if any of my story kind of makes sense or is very cohesive, but
it does. Yeah, I think so.
I know that it's important to you. I know that you say a lot, well, it's everybody's opinions, and everybody's opinions are different, and I don't want to know about people's opinions of me and my sexuality, or me and my partnerships, and that's fine, because nobody does have the right to tell you how to live. But that's not the point. The point is that this God did say what he thinks about it, and this God did say what he thinks is right and wrong. And there are lots of things in the Bible about what he thinks are right and wrong, you know. So many things that are and we can get into that too. But this is part of it. And I'm not trying to hold you down and force you to look at this, but I do think you should consider looking at it, because I want you to know who this is that you're trusting so much.
Right.
And I'm not saying that, like, I want you to become an atheist. It's more like I want you to be healthy in this relationship that you're having. Like, I don't want you to turn away from who this person is. Right. Because for a lot of people, digging more into that relationship makes it stronger. And I'm not trying to challenge the support that you have felt from this God that you believe in. I'm not trying to challenge the love that you've the loving relationship that you've formed. I am trying to say the Bible is still important if you believe that it does contain what this person really thinks and believes. Because I want you to... go ahead.
I get your story, and that's your story, so there's nothing wrong, and I'm not... Like, I don't know how to say it. It doesn't hear what I'm saying, not what I say. You get what I'm saying? Hear what I mean, not what I say.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
Because it's like, you don't care about my story. Like...
What do you mean?
Our stories are our stories. They only carry so much weight. It's like, if I kept punching you in the face and kept saying sorry, that sorry only carries so much weight, and eventually you're just going to be like, well, we have other issues. I don't care why you punched me in the face. You get what I'm trying to say? So, like, it's your story, and how you interpret it is like, or how you experienced it is how you experienced it, and I'm not, like, coming for that or anything. At the end, it gets to be where I get the same vibe from Christians as, like, what I just got is, like, you say that you're not trying to.
They're not trying to what?
Get me to question or come on Rocky. But the actions are still, I told you to your face, I hate that shirt. But on social media, I'm all about that shirt. And I got that switched around. But,
yeah, I know.
You know, it's
okay.
What I say to your face only carries so much weight.
So, okay.
Does that make sense?
So I think So let me kind of
which
say that back to you. So you think that I'm... Okay, hang on.
Like,
I'm making you uncomfortable.
No, you don't. You're not, because I don't
sure?
care. I don't care enough to be made like religion. I don't care enough about other people's view or their opinion. Like, we're just talking. It's like
sure, but okay. Wait, let me continue. So, you think like when I tell you kind of my story and how this progressed for me about just this part, because there are lots of parts, but I mentioned the parts that just kind of quick, thing.
Yeah.
So you hear me telling my story and you hear me kind of bringing it back and back and back to the Bible every single time. And you hear me say, I don't want you to question your relationship or God or both. But then these things that I'm saying, it sounds like I am trying to get you.
Yeah, like your actions are the opposite of what you're telling me.
So why do you feel like I'm trying to get you to question things? Just
kind of the vibe I get. And
okay. Is it like what I'm saying?
Some of the way that you say stuff.
Okay.
Which is the same. It's the same as if you sat down with like my old pastor. You two, he would be saying, "Oh, I'm not trying to get you to see the wrong in your ways or whatever, or like change or question or whatever." But the actions say different. Because you think
I'm trying to deconvert you?
A little.
Okay.
But knowing you as a person, no. What I know of you so far. No, we're not like BFFs, you know my whole story. But what I know from you this far, no, I don't think either of us are trying to get the other person to think that.
Right. So
I think it's coming off as like, let's think of God as like my boyfriend. And you're this, it's new, you haven't met him yet. And I'm trying to describe our relationship to you. That's where I feel like religion gets so confrontational, is because people don't realize, to me, that it is a relationship. And just like you and Steph, and let's say I had someone, me and that person, we're two different relationships, and we're never, ever, ever going to see the other person's relationships.
Okay.
Like, you are never going to see the relationship the exact same way as Steph. And I'm not going to see it the exact same way as either of you. Okay,
so are you saying that I don't understand what it's like or what your relationship with God is like?
That sounds so condescending, or like...
No, it's okay. No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, Luke. If it's how you... It's okay.
Like, to me,
I need to know how you really feel so that we can be honest and get somewhere.
Right, yeah. To me,
so is that how you feel? Is that kind of how you feel, like, that I'm coming from a place of... So we can go back to the boyfriend thing. That's that's a really good... You have kick-ass analogies for it.
That's how I learn.
Yeah, totally get it. Me too. So with the boyfriend thing, okay, so you feel like you're describing this relationship you have with this guy to me, and then other people you've told about this guy have told you some unpleasant things about him, and you feel personally attacked by that.
Yeah.
And then, is that right so far? In terms of like the analogy of the relationship and everything. And then I come in and I am not those people, but I'm kind of saying the same thing. I'm kind of saying, you know what he's said, right?
Like, I put him on a pedestal, and you're trying to be like, he doesn't deserve that pedestal. He's not as good as you're, like, let's keep in mind that he's still, like, abusive or whatever.
Abusive?
Well, I'm not talking about God. Like,
sure.
I'm talking, like, let's say I had this boyfriend,
Okay.
And he was the cat's meow, did nothing wrong, was Beyonce, totally perfect. And you were like, hey, he gets the shits too.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, he punched that homeless man last week.
Yeah.
And like, I just am trying to turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case.
So, okay. So, you think that I'm wrong about who your boyfriend is, who is in this analogy God?
No, that's
okay.
Not at all. I think that, to me, personally, in my experience, I feel like where religion and like these kind of talks kind of get confrontational, and where people like, no, you're wrong, is because they think that there's a wrong. I don't view it as a wrong. I view...
What do you not view as wrong?
You have an interpretation and experience with, you know, like, let's use, I don't know, like, let's say I had a boyfriend, Dave. You obviously didn't date Dave. You weren't like, but you were best friends with him, and he screwed you over.
Okay. And
me, we were loving. We just fell out of love. Nobody screwed anybody over.
Okay.
We just, you know, unfortunately it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a different view than I am, especially if, and this is where I feel like the church plays a part in it, is because God is this boyfriend. God is, Dave. You know, yeah. And the church is Dave's friends. And Dave's friends sometimes f Dave over and don't let Dave speak for Dave. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they read his letter, they interpreted it, and they're saying that's who he is.
But that is Dave speaking for himself.
Yeah, but like, I've said stuff that I'm like, oh my God,
that was a mistake.
No, not a mistake, but like, I meant it one way. Like with Brett, one of my exes, when I called Hillary Clinton a lesbian, he got so offended.
Right, yeah.
And to me, I'm like, chill, bro. That's not, first off, that's not what I'm saying. Second off, it's just not that serious. Like, calm down. That's how I feel like people use the Bible and view the Bible. I don't take it maybe as seriously as other people think. I view more on God as my boyfriend, that relationship. You get what I'm trying to say?
I think so. It's
like, you're sharing your relationship and how he was good to you, bad to you, all that.
So,
and I'm.
Do you mean kind of like if I were like a friend, or if me and the church are both that friend that he's maybe said some things to or done some things to, and you're maybe his current boyfriend or his past boyfriend, maybe I don't know. I guess the ex thing could work too, like you said. And then so so me and the church are coming in having these issues. Well, I wouldn't say that church and I are really coming from the same place, but we have kind of a cohesive story about who this person is.
Yeah.
And that's not your experience of this person.
Yeah.
And so it feels confrontational because you care a lot about this person, and to hear somebody say unpleasant things about him, and or like tell you things that he's said that are unpleasant, it feels like they're poking at this part of you because you guys are so close, because you are in a relationship or were in a relationship and it ended fine, like it wasn't disastrous at least. Is that kind of where you're coming from? Like, it feels because I'm trying to figure out why it feels confrontational to you, what I'm saying about this other person who's not you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not telling you are homophobic, misogynistic, oppressive.
Right.
I'm not telling you that.
Yeah, no.
I'm saying this about somebody else. So I'm trying to understand kind of why why it feels to you confrontational for me to say these things. Because I'm saying these things to you, but about somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what I'm assuming is that it's this relationship that you have with this person. But if that's not all that it is.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why do you feel personally confronted about these things?
Well, and I don't feel like we have beef or like.
No. That's okay.
Anything,
No. Confrontation's different than
people,
like.
We'll call the church Brenda, and I feel like people in Brenda beef a lot because I feel like Brenda's that know-it-all friend that's like, I got this figured out, girl. Mm-hmm. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, how to put it into words? I feel like
it's not that black and white, Brenda.
That's how it gets. Yeah, I feel like that's why Brenda gets in confrontations, and people don't like Brenda. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to get people to like Brenda. Like, I'm like, yeah, Brenda
has issues.
Up sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Brenda isn't Dave. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so like we all have people like, my best friend hated my ex. I still am fully 100% in love with my ex. I always will be. Mm-hmm. She doesn't, but let's say she was trying to get me to hate him. Mm-hmm. You can tell when somebody doesn't like somebody or they're not the biggest fan of something because it has that kind of like connotation.
Sure. Okay.
And to me, I'm like, I'm just sharing my experience.
Yeah. Right. So let's look at this friend who doesn't like your ex.
Right.
What if she's not trying to get you to hate him? What if she's trying to help you see who he really is because she cares about you and she doesn't want you to have this false idea of who he is? What if it's not about, I just want to shit talk your ex and I want you to agree with me because I want you to validate these angry, resentful. What if it's more like, Luke, how can you love this person considering, and I'm not saying he's done, this is just hypothetical.
No, yeah.
What if she's saying, Luke, how can you love this person when he's done and said these things to other people before? Like, doesn't that factor into how you consider him? You know, because you will have your experience. You're right. You will have a different experience than somebody else. Mm-hmm. But when somebody does something that's pretty fucked up, and then there's somebody else with this new partner, and then that partner's friend finds out about it, they're going to bring it to you, not because they want you to hate this person. Maybe sometimes it is so that you'll stop being in a relationship with this person, but it's not because of them, it is for you. Does that make sense? So like with the...
Yes, but I think it's bullshit.
Okay,
That's when say, we'll call it Julie. Say Julie was that friend that was coming to me. I would... and I think it's the same thing between Brenda and everybody else. It is, as an adult, we have made mistakes to get to adulthood. But that's not who we are. And sometimes some of the stuff we said, like that Hillary Clinton joke I made to that boyfriend that broke up with me for it. I said it, and if it got back to Hillary, yeah, it'd probably hurt her feelings that I called her a lesbian.
Probably not.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But it's like, as an adult, I would think that, and I'm not saying...
It's different, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like anybody's childish for thinking different. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah.
It's accepting that I view the Bible as that statement, as that joke.
Okay.
And the way Brett took it wasn't right. The way Brett took it is nowhere near where I meant it.
Okay, yeah.
Nowhere near what I was saying. Wasn't that serious. I view like the Bible and my relationship with God the same way, where I made that one joke, that one book that we'll call that joke the Old Testament.
That's a big joke.
I made that Old Testament.
Right.
But then I show you all this other things, and it's not like it's not like there's more than one Old Testament. There's one Old Testament, one New Testament. Who knows what testament they're going to find 60 million years from now. Like, it's like taking that one joke and being like defining who I am as a person. And I just don't think that that's possible. I think.
Okay, so I think I
more.
see the problem. So here's my question then to kind of get to that question so we can work it out. So do you think that my criticisms of this God's character are fair?
For you, yes.
What do you mean?
It goes back to like relationships where like, to me, you and God don't have a relationship.
Okay.
Because I view God as his own person, as like how you would view me, as like I'm Luke. And so your relationship and experience with Luke, with me, is different than my best friend of umpteen years. It's different. And like, let's say you hated me. You're going to have a hella different experience.
Sure, yeah.
And you're going to interpret anything I do differently than she is. But like, you both can talk, or you both can talk to the other one about me without trying to convince the other one that your way is right and that's how you should view me, or question their friendship.
Yeah. So, I see what you mean. I do see what you mean.
Why I think religion gets so
mucky.
Yeah, and people get so turned off. It's because so many people aren't like that. So
okay. I see here kind of how it's coming across. So I'll tell you what I am not saying and what I am saying. What I am not saying is this is how you should see this person. This is how you should see this God. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is I think you should take a closer look.
Which means question your relationship.
No.
To me. That's how it comes out.
Why? Why does it have to mean that? If someone comes up and tells me, hey, I think you should ask Stephanie about her opinions on this, and then I say, are you saying we should break up? No. No. That is not what I'm saying. And I know that's how it sounds, but I think that it sounds that way to you because this is very sensitive territory, and this is very personal to both of us. And so when I say things like, I think you should take a closer look at this, it doesn't matter if I'm saying it to you or to my old roommate who's also gay and a Christian, or if I'm saying it to my friend who's a woman, and I can't wait to have this conversation with her too. Different, but it's the same. What people do is they get their defenses go up because the alarm starts going up, because inside they're like, oh no, if I go down this road, I'm going to lose this relationship. That's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend, for example, who his girlfriend has listened to I've had atheists on here before, and we've answered these questions, and he was on it too. And she got really upset because she didn't like the things we were saying, and she didn't like our experiences. But I kept telling him, encourage her to dig deeper, because sure, she might lose her faith, or it could make it so much stronger because she's finding her own reasons now. Instead of letting somebody regurgitate it to her in church, she's finding her own way. She's finding her own relationship with God. So when someone comes up to me and says, Stephanie said some weird, you should ask Stephanie about, I don't know, her opinions on abortion, and I've never heard that, ideally, the person's not trying to say you should break up with Stephanie because of her thoughts on abortion. The person is saying, are you aware that these are her thoughts on abortion? Not, you should break up with this person because of her thoughts on abortion. So I see where it sounds to you like I am saying you should break up with this person because of his thoughts on homosexuality. I am not saying that.
Right. And
I am saying you should look at it. That's all.
I'm not speaking just on you.
No, I know.
Like, just the whole...
Yeah.
Christians... I feel like especially now, Christians are just kind of clustered into that, like, those closed-minded people that don't really... To me, it's like, you're sharing your thoughts, I'm sharing my thoughts. I'm not ever going to try to get your thoughts to be my thoughts or get you to question your thoughts because they're your thoughts. I don't care. And I don't think we should care about the other person's thoughts that much.
So why do you keep saying like question, or I think what you mean is doubt? Because questioning is different than doubting somebody. Me going up to Stephanie and asking her a question is different than me accusing her of something, you know?
No, yeah.
So why do you see questions as wrong because it's doubt?
I don't. I just think it is... I don't think questions are doubts. I think when people say, you should look into this deeper. Like if I had a boyfriend and somebody told me that, I'd just be like, fuck off. Because it's like,
don't you want to know like who he really is, especially if you've got such a close relationship with somebody?
To me, it's like you and Stephanie. I'm never gonna point something out that Steph said and be like, you should look deeper.
I would welcome that,
because to me and see, that's the difference between people, and I think that's what makes it such a hard topic to cover.
Yeah,
it's because to me it's a personal thing, and we can talk about like, well, when she posted that status, it really just rubbed me the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But, like, we're still go to HAPS together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, to me, it's like, when somebody's like, you really need to look into that, it's like them trying to be like, this is my viewpoint, and obviously you think your viewpoint's right. We all do. I think mine's right.
Sure. Well...
You think yours right. But at the end of the day, I think... why religion gets so confrontational, not exactly this convo, but like relationships.
It's okay if something's confrontational. I'm okay with that.
Well, I don't think I don't view it.
It's okay if, I just mean like, I don't want you to feel like I don't want you to feel like I feel confronted by you telling me that you feel confronted by me. Like it's okay.
No, and I don't want to give that impression. To me, this isn't that deep. We're just talking.
Yeah.
You're sharing your side, I'm sharing my side. And we're talking about our experience with it as how it relates to the whole world. Like my experience with the church to the whole world compared to yours, and like what we think is right and wrong.
Yeah.
And what we agree and don't agree.
It's fair. You're right. It's absolutely fair to say you and I are going to have different opinions. That's not the problem. Where I feel like I really want to connect with you on this is that when I say I think you should look into it, what you read is you should look into the, it's there are two completely different tones here. And this is kind of also on the topic of interpretation. I'm trying to explain to you now what I mean, because I don't want you to misinterpret me.
Yeah, I think like a better way for, and I'm using you as an example this whole time. Like,
yeah, go ahead.
I think a better way is to be like, have you looked at this and what are your thoughts on this? Because it's like, that one tweet that rubbed me the wrong way. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? We're not mad about it. We're not trying to get anybody else.
Yeah.
We're just saying, I want to know your thoughts.
Perfect. So that right there, that is what I mean.
It's all about the wording. And like, you should look deeper into this just comes off naturally. It's like if I came to you and was like, you should look into Steph's tweet.
Right.
You would be like, great.
So me
and it's not
asking so me, even if it's, I guess, other people, I don't really know how they I don't know how they come off, but because in the beginning, that is how it started. I was asking you, what have you found out? What have you figured out? What is your relationship with this person like? Mm-hmm. Have you looked into this other stuff? And your response was you described this relationship with this person. And then when I asked you, have you looked into what these verses or what the Bible says, whatever, and you said no. And I said, don't you think it's important? So it'd be kind of like you saying, have you looked at Steph's tweet? Or if you saying, what's your relationship with Steph like? And I told you. And then you said, okay, did you see that one tweet she tweeted one time about something sensitive? I don't know, abortion or women's rights. And I said, no, I don't really like to look at her tweets. And you asked me, why not? I mean, I think you should kind of look into it, because I think I want you to be happy and I want you to have a healthy relationship. And so why not look at it, Yeah. And then I say, I hear you say you should look into this, and then my alarm bells go off. And I'm like, I don't want to look into that because I don't want to question my relationship with her. And so right there, what happens between you suggesting that I look into it, and then me interpreting that as she wants me to, or I forgot who was asking, but it'd be like me, my thoughts going, he wants me to question my relationship with Stephanie. Something's happening there, right there in that space between that question and that thought.
Right.
That's what I am interested in, because there is a difference between
100%
someone like in the church, like an evangelical or fundamental. I don't know what kind of denominations you've dealt with. There is a difference between somebody shoving the Bible down somebody else's throat and somebody opening their Bible and setting it in front of you and just saying, I just think this is important.
Yeah.
For our relationship. I could be wrong, but ultimately it's not about, I think you should think what I think about this person. It's about, I want you to know everything about this person, because this is important, because relationships are important. Having a holistic idea of who somebody is makes the relationship deeper.
Right.
I think. Don't you think? I mean, the past is, and you're right, the past is the past. You're right. And what people say and do in the past doesn't necessarily reflect on who they are. But some things, what if they haven't changed? And I'd want to know that about Stephanie, Right. It doesn't mean you would want to know that about your partner. But when I ask you why not, it's not that I want you to think what I think about your ex again. It's I want you to know everything about if you guys were still together, let's say. It's not I want you to question your relationship and eventually break up. It's I want you to get to know this guy because I care about you, and I don't want you to end up in a situation where you're, worst case scenario, unsafe, for example. So does that kind of make sense? Like the difference between like what I'm saying is you're kind of hearing it a certain way, and I'm interested in why. Is it because of these experiences you've had with people where it's usually come off like that? And so when you hear me say those same things, it rings a bell? Or is it something else?
I don't know. I think it's something... Oh, God, that sounded weird. I don't know.
It sounded like both Southern and like British.
I don't know what that was.
That was adorable.
I don't know. I think it is... and I think it's the church. Like, I use you because it's just easier in this conversation. I think, like, they try to say that this one tweet is
representative of the whole person.
Yeah, and
yeah,
are they still that person, or have they grown? And to me, where I kind of take a step back and get a little guarded with my own thing, is because I'm like, well, how I handle relationships is their actions will show. So like, to me, his actions will show how he feels, and if like he still thinks homosexuality is wrong, his actions will still show that. But if he doesn't, then they won't.
Would it be a problem for you if, this is totally hypothetical, not saying this is true for you, but just hypothetically, would it be a problem for you if he still thought that you shouldn't be gay? Or would you be able to just be like, well, that's what you think, and this is what I think, and this is how our relationship is, and that's fine? Or would you take pause and be like,
that's how I handle it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying and what you're meaning. I get both.
What do you think I'm saying and meaning?
Saying, I think we interpret it the same way, where like, you're trying to you're saying like, does it bother you that he likes peas and you don't? And what you're meaning is, could you still be with him if he liked peas and you don't?
So, no. What I'm saying is, what if he didn't like peas? And what I mean is, would you want to find out? So I'm not even going...
Yeah,
Luke, I'm not even going all the way to the end of this relationship. I'm not even crossing that bridge. Yeah. I'm not even there.
Yeah.
I'm asking just bare basic first step. Would you want to know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not... So I'm not saying... what if he doesn't like this part of you? If he doesn't, would you even want to be in a relationship?
Do I even want to know if he does?
Exactly. That's where it stops. That's where I stop. That's what I'm meaning. Would you want to know if he still holds these views about this very personal, private part of yourself? Would you want to know that he holds that view? And then the relationship stuff is up to you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not...
And to me, where I feel like I get... in these conversations where I feel like it gets like kind of frustrating for them.
For who?
Whoever's trying to have the conversation, like you in this case, where I feel like, in my point of view, where I could see it become frustrated is because I am very chill and I don't care. And I'm like, I don't give a if he likes peas or not. His actions will show. You know, if he eats a pot pie and there are peas in it, then I can assume he doesn't care about peas.
The answer is no. You would not want to know if he did.
It's not no and it's not yes. It's I don't care. Like, I take things as they come.
Well, the question is, would you care? Essentially, the question is, would you want to know? Which is really it. Would you want to know? Which means you would have to care enough to want to figure it out. You know.
See, and to me, it's complicated because I don't even care enough to get to that point to see it, to be able to answer yes or no. Because to me, to be able to say yes or no, you have to care at least a little bit one way. You have to care whether you care or not? Like, to be able to say, yes, I care, or no, I don't care, at the end of the day, I feel like there's a little bit of care that has to go into it that I just don't have. Like, it's like, I would think for everybody, if they liked peas or not, you don't care. You're like, whatever.
Right, because it's vegetables. But if
some stranger walked in and said, hey, you think that lady over there likes peas or not? You're going to be like, I don't give a...
So it'd be more like if somebody walked in and said, do you know that your mother, like... That sounds extreme. I'm going to say it because it's ridiculous, but it'd be like someone saying, do you know that your mom, like, hides your face in pictures of you guys together, I'd be like, what?
See,
it's different because it's personal.
It's the same though. I view it all the same.
What do you mean?
I view it as the same depth as if some stranger likes peas.
Okay, well then why would it matter then if he didn't? So then it wouldn't matter to you, right? You wouldn't necessarily care.
I can't say yes or no. I don't feel like I can answer it enough because
okay,
I don't care. Like, it's like with the mom thing. Like, I don't care because her actions will show. And that's what I'm going to read into more. I think, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like it's like, if you it's the same as if you ask me a medical question. I can't answer it because I don't care enough about the medical field to even research it more. I care about my experience with it. So like you could be like I had a tumor spring last year, and if you were like, well, what was it? What is it? I don't know. I don't care enough. It didn't. You know, this was just my experience with it.
Okay.
And I think personally, that's how religion is like where I think people get too, like the church and Dave get too
like Brenda and Dave
passionate about it is because they care too much about the other person. Like, I feel like I would rather share, this is my experience with religion, this is your experience with religion. Okay, good for you. If your experience like gets me to thinking and I want to do something, great. But I'm not going to tell you like, oh, because of your experience you should look into this, like you should research that more, you should learn more about it, because it's your thing. You're going to do what you want. It's just like if my mom hid my face, like, okay, I'm going to hide my face. It's what she wants. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah. I think...
So I can't answer yes or no if I want to know or not.
Well, I think you did answer it. Like, I think you...
Did I answer it or...
Yeah.
Do you
Well, I think you answered it even though you really didn't want to.
I think it's easy, though, to get an answer. I really didn't answer it yes or no.
But it's the way that you, like, it is the way that you answered it that kind of did answer my question. So let me explain. So, I'll go back to the question, which was, well, I mean, we use like peas and carrots, vegetable, but right. But the real question was, if this is what God really thinks about this part of us, would you care, basically? And you said, like, I don't... What you basically said was, I don't even care enough to, like, confront that question. But that is an answer because if you don't even care to broach that question, then that does say you wouldn't care if it was yes or no, because you don't even want to... You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, what are you saying?
I'm saying I'm not answering the question.
Okay.
Yes or no, because time will tell. It's like if I punched you in the face and said I was sorry, you don't care yes or no, did I mean it or not, what was behind it.
Why wouldn't I care?
The action that follows it, if I never punch you again, then your answer was yes, I cared about it. But if I punch you again tomorrow, then the answer is no. I didn't care much about that.
Okay.
Or mean it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I can't say yes or no.
Okay.
It's the actions that follow.
Okay.
Will tell me, and then when it comes, I'll form my opinion.
Okay.
But
so you feel like...
which when it comes is when we die and we actually get to meet God and tell him.
So are those kind of like when you say like the actions of God are what tell you the most? So what's like an action that he could do for you that not necessarily about the gay stuff, but just about anything. What are actions of God to you? What do those look like?
I think it's a little Phoebe Buffet to say.
Okay.
But I believe in signs.
Okay.
And I think God puts a sign. Like, have you ever had an experience where, like, you've been on the fence about something, like, oh, should I study for my test? Should I not? And then, like, say note cards just fell from the sky. They won it. But, like, let's say all of a sudden you just...
Or, like, I saw my
your mom
textbook.
bought you note cards at the store without even knowing.
Without you saying, yeah.
To me, that's a sign.
That you should study.
That God said, yes, you need to study.
Okay.
So, like, to me...
So it kind of comes through other people sometimes is kind of what it looks like sometimes to you? Or that's
just
at least
anything. Like, it's like if I was thinking about studying for a test and my mom, without even talking to her, got me note cards.
So it's something kind of...
It's God places something and then whispers in your ear. I think we have that, like, little... To me, you... might view it different, but it's like, this is my experience. It's like, I have a little voice in my head that's God just being like, hey, you should study. That's why she got you note cards. Like, I made her get you those note cards so you would study. Like, to me, that's what makes it a sign. Not just, I want a new car and I drive by the dealership. I drive by every day on my way to work. Like, no. Okay.
So it's like very subtle. If God wants you to know something or do something, it's kind of like a subtle hint. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Because it, like, comes from you, and sometimes it manifests in others.
Like, I don't think it's subtle.
It's not subtle, so it's pretty obvious.
I think
so it makes it obvious. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like it'll... And not even just the gay thing. I don't know if that was, like, the real premise of the show or just, like, became a thing. But, like, just with anything, I think it's like if I knew you were questioning, like, should I go to the gym or not? And I went and bought you a gym membership, and then I nudged you real hard and was like,
okay,
I bought this, like, so get your ass blatant. To the gym. Yeah.
Very blatant. Okay.
Like, there's no question.
Okay. So.
And if
go ahead.
Have you ever, well, maybe not you, but, like, I'm sure if a listener is Christian, they've done it. I'm sure even you've done it because you grew up Christian. But if you're like, God, if you want me to do this, do this. And this happens. I view it as like, do you want
that's
me,
what God was saying.
Yeah, do you want me to date this man? Make him walk by right now.
And then he walks by and you're like, what?
Yeah, and you're like in your bathroom, you're like,
ah! Okay, no, so Jesus. That is pretty blatant, yes.
Yeah, not that blatant, but yeah. It's like if you look out the window and you see him walking by.
And like, oh, that's a sign.
Then I take it as God saying, like, yeah, girl.
Yeah, girl. Okay. So do you think that he has shown you that he thinks, regardless of what the Bible says or what other Christians say, do you think that he has shown you by his actions or the way that these signs manifest in your life, do you think that he has said and shown you that he does not think homosexuality is wrong? Or do you think that that's one of those questions that won't be answered until the end? Or like between either of those things? Or is it something else?
I don't think he's shown me that he thinks it's wrong.
No, I mean, like, do you think it's come up at all?
That he thinks it's wrong?
That anything about it. Like, do you think he's shown you that he is okay with it? Do you think he's shown you that he doesn't care? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think he has shown you by his actions, which are, aka these signs, that he does not think homosexuality is wrong?
Yeah, like, by his actions and the vibes. I'm a big... God, I sound so like Phoebe. Just like...
No, it's okay.
This ditzy weirdo that everybody's like, what?
No.
But I feel like vibes are real.
Yeah.
And God, I view him as a person the same as I view you. and I think we all send vibes.
Okay.
And I think his vibes point to, like, he's said it's not wrong. He knows I struggle with it. It's like if we were BFFs, talked every day nonstop, you would know what I was struggling with.
Yeah.
So it's like, even without me, the times that I've told him I'm struggling with it, he knows. So, like, if he's sending the vibe that it's okay, it's okay. And I'm just like, I'm one of those people that, like, once you get the vibe, it's the vibe. Like,
so you think he's made it very clear to you that it's okay. Like, be who you are.
yeah.
You don't need to change. Don't listen to these jerks who are trying to impose their own views on you.
Yeah.
Is that kind of...
Yeah,
okay.
and that's how I feel like people get offended easy by talking about religion. Not...
Like, if they heard you say that?
Just in general.
Okay.
Yes, if they heard me say it, but, like, just in general, I think people get offended because they don't realize that or view it that way. They're too,
like, they don't agree with that he would say that, or they don't agree that it's like that's how he would say it.
Just regardless of what he says or anything, just him as a person. I think people think of it as too black and white. And that's what gets, you know, if I say, if my car is black, if I told you my car is white and I stuck by that, you'd be like, you're dumb, your car is black.
You're colorblind, or one of us is colorblind.
Like, I think it's like that.
Yeah. Okay.
To where I think there's, like, all these spectrums, like,
it's midnight black.
It's not black. There's 60 different shades of black.
Yeah.
And white and gray and...
Yeah.
We can just share what we see.
Yeah.
And I see it as jet black, but you see it as, like, charcoal gray.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, just as, like, a hypothetical, because I don't know that this is, I haven't really talked to anybody as deeply about this as I've talked to you. And I wanted to thank you for being so honest with me about this stuff. Because it is uncomfortable and it is scary, because this is very personal. This is not just whether, you know, how many times a day God thinks you should pray. This is dealing directly with who you and I are, parts of us. So I wanted to thank you for talking to me about it. But just out of curiosity, if I were to sit down Emma's, I don't know if you know who Emma Wade is. She's been on the show a couple times.
I might know her face. I'm horrible at
It's okay. You might know her, or if you've ever been around the dorms, you'd probably know, because she's been an RA she was an RA the first year, and then that I was. But she's around a lot. If I were to sit Emma down and ask her the same question, like, how do you know what God wants? Regardless of the Bible, because there's more to somebody than what they've written down, what they've said, which is fair. And she were to say the same thing, like signs and vibes. And I said, okay, what has he sent you any signs or vibes about homosexuality? And if she were to say the opposite, which is, I feel like he does not think it's okay. Emma's not gay. So I feel like that might play a little bit into this, if it might make a difference to you or not. I'm not sure, but I thought I'd just throw it in. How would I be able to tell which one of you's right? Or would I have to figure that out on my own? Or should I listen to both of you and then just kind of take that in and process it?
Yeah.
And then, okay.
I don't think there is a right or wrong.
About what?
Well, her viewing gay people is wrong. Like, the physical question and then, like, the topic question.
Okay.
Of, like, her viewing gay people as wrong, me viewing it as right.
But, well, it's not necessarily that. It's more like it's not the personal opinion of it. It's the vibes, like, that you were talking about. Like, what are you getting from this person?
Yeah, and it's like my vibes from her would be no vibes. I would just take it as she doesn't think it's wrong, or she thinks it's wrong. I don't think it is, but like I accept that we're two different people with two different viewpoints, two different experiences with it.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how she got to that and how I got to where I am with my opinion.
And it does come down to interpretation too.
Yeah.
And it comes down to like, okay, who is this person? And if I'm trying to figure out who this person is, if I'm trying to do some investigative work and I'm trying to figure out who this person is, I'm going to ask people who know this person, you know? And if one person is saying that, if we're just basing it off of like vibes and kind of general emotional experiences with this person, and I have one person saying, this person is terrible, and I get such a creepy, like a salty vibe from them. And then I have somebody else who is saying, no, this person is super chill, like super safe, and I have never felt anything off about them. Those are pretty different. Those aren't like very close.
Yeah, no.
Vibes, you know.
It's like religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
I'm for it, and some people are against it. Some people just, I'm not for it or against it. I'm just, you know, whatever.
Yeah, they kind of leave it alone. Yeah, absolutely. But I would have a problem because now I don't know who is really basing it off of who this person is and who is basing it off of what they want to see in this person. You know what I'm saying? So like if I were to sit Emma down, does my question make sense? Like, how would I know 100%. Which one of you is right?
And my response, like if you were venting to me about that and you were like, oh my God, they thought this was Joe, but then this one, like I just don't know who to believe. I'd be like, girl, just everybody else. You're like reading hate comments on a YouTube video. Just meet them and have your own. And if you think that he's salty and he's not for you, then great. Like, more power to ya. If you think he's great and the cat's meow, great. If I don't care, I don't care. Like, it's, to me, it's that personal that it's like food.
Yeah.
Where
so
like,
it's like,
I don't like
depends on what your taste
and
is.
you love peas. It doesn't matter. Just experience your own thing. Don't form, oh, I don't like peas off of Brenda's opinion and Dave's opinion.
Yeah.
Just try the peas.
That's fair. Cool. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question for the night, and then I'll let you go. Because it is a Sunday night. This was great. I just want to say that real quick. How, this isn't going to be like a question about anything necessarily we've just talked about.
Okay.
Well, it is, but it's not. How do you feel so far about this conversation? And the reason I ask is because, you know, I've been saying over and over again, this stuff is so personal, this stuff is so sensitive, and it's hard. It's hard to, it's easier, honestly, it's easier to have these conversations with straight people because it's not personal to them. And their defense mechanisms are not as quick with gay stuff in particular. If it were like a woman, it would be different because I'd be talking about woman stuff and then the guard would go up. But the reason I ask you is because I want to make sure that while we're having this discussion, I am trying to break down your walls a little bit, and I am trying to dig a little deeper into Luke. But it's important that I am purposefully crossing some boundaries by asking these questions and being kind of consistent. That's not really the word. I guess consistent about it. That is purposeful. The purpose is to kind of make everybody a little uncomfortable. But I want to ask you how you think this went, because And you might sit on it for a while and come back later with a different opinion of it. But I think that it's important for the listeners to know what you think about this conversation and what you think about conversations like this, because some people really want to be able to have this conversation and really want the courage that you have to do it, even though deep down it might be really terrifying. So that's where my question that's where my question is coming from. So how do you feel about this discussion, and if somebody kind of wants to have the discussion but is really like cringy about it, what would you say to them? So it's kind of a two-part question.
I think
go ahead.
Well, I think this conversation went good. I mean, I've definitely had this conversation with other people, and it has definitely ended relationships, and I don't view you any different.
It's ended relationships before?
Oh, totally. Just because I think people don't really realize that you can have an opinion and not be pushy.
Yeah.
And you can share your experience and not force your experience onto the other person.
Yeah.
But I think,
did they usually end the conversation or sorry, the relationship?
No, I definitely am a cutter. I definitely cut people out pretty quick.
Okay.
That's just me as a person. People might be different.
Okay.
But it just, like, I would end up getting kicked out. I got kicked out of so many youth groups.
Oh.
For having this conversation, and then
really?
being like,
what?
It black and white, and I'm just so much of a gray person.
They told you to leave?
Yeah, I've fully been kicked out of. I remember I went to Westlink back. It's Pathway now, but back when it was Westlink, I went to.
Is that a church here? I don't.
In Wichita.
Oh, okay.
It's on the west side. It's right off of Mays.
Oh, okay.
And if you go there, like, great. I'm not dissing the church or anything. This lady, she was my CP team leader, which is like a small group for high school and college kids. Mm-hmm. And when I went, we got into the topic of gay people. It was in the lesson. It wasn't like you and I sat down. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't, to me, she wasn't adult enough to have a scholarly conversation of, this is my experience, this is your experience. Both experiences are valid and right. There's no right or wrong. Like, we're both okay. Mm-hmm. And it's okay that we have two different experiences and we can still be friends.
But it didn't end like that.
No. It ended with, you shouldn't come back ever.
To the church?
Yeah. Wow. And, like, I know that that's, like, one person speaking for a whole church, but, like, that's how...
Well, still that mentality of, like, if you don't agree with me on this, we can't have a relationship.
Yeah, that was one person that was, like, a cancer to religion and church that's the body.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, oh. So, like, I think for listeners, you should have the conversation. You should. That's what friends are for. Mm-hmm. And, like, I view you as a friend, so I feel like it made it easier. I was like, oh, what? Yeah. So I feel like accepting that we're just, right off the bat, we're two friends. We're just sharing our experiences. And I think part of it is when you are an adult, I think, and there are some, like, people who are 85 and still I don't view them as adults. It's
maturity is
you're an adult when you can sit down with someone and realize nobody can cross a boundary that I don't allow them to cross. Mm-hmm. So you can't offend me unless I allow you to offend me.
Sure.
So it's like you just have to sit down and be like, I'm having a conversation. It's okay that they don't view it my way. Mm-hmm. And nobody's trying to get anybody to come to the dark side. It's just, we're having this conversation, but you definitely have to feel out that person. Mm-hmm. I would not have come and sat down with that lady.
Yeah.
Because I would have known that it was not two people accepting, hey, we have different views. I want to learn more about your view and understand your view a little more. But like, it's okay that we both leave still having the same views we had coming into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like, feel them out and just be an adult about it.
Yeah, agreed. And what you're saying about those kinds of people who are not interested in compassion or understanding for somebody else is the reason that these conversations are so uncomfortable.
100%.
I mean, obviously part of it.
Yeah,
unfortunately. I mean, obviously a part of it is still this stuff is going to be hard either way, probably because it's so personal. But the judgment and the vitriolic just ignorance that people just kind of spit on each other all the time over topics like this makes it impossible. Like, people already have their boundaries and their guard up, and then you throw on when somebody's trying to get to know you, and then they splash on some judgment, those walls are going to become even thicker. Yeah. And it's going to be even harder to reach somebody with that. And so I'm glad that you said that you shared that experience that you had with the lady, and that you said you've literally been kicked out of youth groups for talking about it and proposing a different perspective.
Yeah. Because
that perspective is important. And I agree with you that they all are, that people's perspectives are are valid. And it doesn't mean that you and I will walk out of here thinking something different.
Yeah.
But the fact that you and I could sit down and talk about it from different sides of it is super adult.
Yeah, we're grown people.
Yes, we're
Come
grown
at me,
people.
world.
And I'm glad that you still understand that we are friends, and I do care about you, and I'm not coming from the same place that those people are coming from.
Yeah.
I might be saying similar things, but it is not the goal is completely different. Mm-hmm. You know, so like those people, I feel like their goals are more like change him, change his mind, change who he is, because I'm insecure and I need to control how other people feel and live. And with people like me and with people like you, it's more about I just want to understand you, and I want you to be healthy and happy. And I have some ideas and opinions that I want us to talk about.
Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're both mature and realize that, like, I can say my car is white, you can say it's black, but it doesn't affect me driving the car, you driving your car. It doesn't affect us. It's okay.
Right. These are ideas.
It's not that important. Dare I say that it's not that important?
Yeah. For sure. Sorry, I keep checking to make sure it's still recording because of this computer.
Have we been here forever?
Yes.
Oh.
So no. These
I invaded your home.
No. These conversations tend to go on forever, and I love it. And I had a lot of fun. And did you have fun? I mean, was this? I mean, I know it got sweaty in here, but did you feel? Yeah. Was this a good conversation? Do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great example to how this conversation should go.
Wonderful. Good. Any last questions or any last words you want to say before we sign off? Cool. Well, I will just say, hopefully I'll see you guys next Sunday. Don't really know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out, I'm sure. Maybe I'll bring Abby on and we'll talk about Catholicism. Who knows? I love having these conversations. I will always come back to this, I feel like. So thank you guys so much for listening and being patient and hearing Luke speak and hearing me speak. I hope you got something from it. I hope that the people out there who want to have these conversations and don't know how to, I hope that you come to this and take something away from it, because these conversations are important and they matter, and your perspective matters, mine does. So let's sit down and talk about it. yeah, so everybody have a good night. Thank you, Luke, for joining me tonight and having this conversation. Yeah. This has been Coalition M. I'm your host, Carson Lopez on KFHS Radio, and see you guys next Sunday.